when you're dealing with not a specific training topic, you're dealing with, let's say, a new hire group. And so they have, you don't know what their deficits are.
Sure.
You understand a with them. You know, you understand the what's in it for me. Like, I'm going to talk to you about time being, you know, something of value. I'm going to talk about, you know, how to do X, Y, or Z. I'm going to engage with you. But when you have the person in the class who's distracting you and everyone else, how would you recommend dealing with that?
Good point. So it just depends on who the person is distracting you. So if the person distracting you genuinely needs the training, because it's going to be different, right? So in your case, you're dealing with a room full of newer people who have no idea what they're about to step into. This is a different vibe. It's a different energy, right? It's because they're young and dumb, right? Just kind of nicely put, it's just you haven't experienced it yet, but we have. So we know what's to come ahead. But what we do understand is that we are going to react certain ways where we probably feel like they're not paying attention to us. But we have to take a step back and say, maybe he doesn't mean it unless he's a repeat offender, right? Maybe he really is off, dude. You know, give the dude some slack. Maybe something really is affecting him in his life. Visit him after or shoot him over a message and say, hey man, I noticed you weren't there. Are you okay? Versus saying, hey, why don't you listen to this meeting? You approach him in a different way, right? And if he tells you, he's like, oh no, I'm okay, someone's on me, okay, cool. Well, let me know if I can help you because the information in this training is gonna be very helpful, right? And then connect with them directly rather than call them out in front of the class. Now on the flip side of that, let's just say if you're in a meeting and one's like yawning or checking his phone, I'd call him out, all right? Just put him on blast and be like, Jason, what's your thoughts on that? Right? Just right away, just stop the training. And then when he stumbles, he says, yeah, okay, appreciate it. Here, what he meant to say is, and then give, the answer. And sometimes when you do that, when they get bit, they don't want to get called on, right? If anything, they're just they're throwing a fit. And so for the parents in the room, I'm a parent, I got 3 kids and we understand that sometimes our kids are they're gonna mope, right? It just is what it is. But we do not let that affect us, right? We don't give in just because our kids suck their teeth, because we know what's good for them, but we communicate with them in a different way, right? We communicate with them in a supportive way where they're emotionally tied to delivering for you. And if you can connect with your staff or your LOs in a way where you're the guy with all the secrets, right? And this is where you can actually create a little brand for yourself. You can create a brand where you shoot out maybe to a team and say, hey, shout out to Tim. He just went over this technique that we learned in this last meeting, and this is what he got back from it. Shout out, Tim, blah, 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 right? It's a reinforcement of the lesson. And so when they see their colleagues going through it, then it's a little bit easier for them to adapt to it. But what I've found is that typically for those who are disrespectful, because as a sales manager, one of the most fundamental things that I've learned is that not everyone's gonna be like us, right? Not everyone's gonna be as motivated or driven like us. And where we sink down to a level where we get deflated or demotivated is when we want to change someone who doesn't want to change. Make sense? And so, but we have to kind of draw a line in the sand and say, hey, I get it, bro. You don't want to change, I get it, but do me one solid. Don't yawn, don't converse, because you're distracting everybody else. Pull them aside and say that if they're a repeat offender, right? Because what happens if they do it again, then you get to send their SM. Like, dude, I don't even want this guy in my training, messing up my vibe, right? And we warrant that because we have to teach these guys how to stay in the lane. We got to teach them where the boundaries are. They're going to keep messing up, and then we're going to keep going over the same exact topic and subject.